Coming up on tonight's This Week in Politics.
I think you've been treated extremely unfairly in the world of immigration, and a lot of things are going to change.
President Trump, during a roundtable discussion in Minnesota, again touches on the issue of illegal immigration in America, hinting that further action will be taken soon. That story just a few minutes from now. Good evening, everyone. I'm Brian Allen. Thank you so very much for being with us here tonight. We begin with Pulitzer Prize-winning author Doris Kearns Goodwin and former South Dakota Senator Tom Daschle. They made a joint appearance earlier this week in Brookings as Goodwin was preparing to speak as part of the annual Daschle Dialogues event at South Dakota State University. We were able to hear from both of them on the topics of political leadership and the current political climate. They are both well known in the nation's political circles and right here at home. Tom Daschle, the former South Dakota congressman and senator, who at one time was the highest-ranking Democrat in the United States Senate, and Doris Kearns Goodwin, the Pulitzer Prize-winning writer whose biographies of Abraham Lincoln, Theodore Roosevelt, Franklin Roosevelt, John Kennedy, and Lyndon Johnson are well known and renowned for their insight. Together in Brookings to talk shop politics.
We need to understand what are the qualities that make a good leader.
Goodwin says with all of the research she has done on some of the more well-known occupants of the White House, she has seen some common threads emerge that define the conduct of someone worthy of America's top job.
Empathy and humility and the ability to acknowledge errors and learn from your mistakes, to share credit, to control your negative emotions, to communicate through stories, and to take risks when the times demand it. And in a certain sense, I think today, given that we have a feeling, given the change in Washington from when you were there, that Washington itself is broken, and where is the leadership that we need to move us forward? I think looking back at the times when we had really difficult challenges, even worse than now, people keep stopping me and saying, are these the worst of times? And I can remind them of what it was like during the Civil War, the Great Depression, or World War II. And these were harder times than this. And America somehow, between the leaders that came in place and more importantly, the citizens who were active and pushed the leaders in various sense.
The most effective leader to ever hold the office of president? Goodwin says she is partial to Abraham Lincoln because of the historical trail he left on how he viewed the presidency.
He was somehow able to deal with the normal human emotions that we all have of envy, anger, or jealousy. And he would talk about the fact that if you allow those emotions to fester, they'll poison you. So every time, and he just wouldn't let resentments from the past get to him. I mean, the famous case of that is his war secretary, Edwin Stanton, had once humiliated him when they were young lawyers in a law case. And when he left, he never even thought he wanted to go back to the city of Cincinnati where it happened again. But then when he was told, this is the best man for your war secretary, he was able to forget that past hurt because he thought this is the right guy for the right place right now.
Tom Daschle has been out of office for more than 14 years now, and he says with that time away comes hindsight about what works in Washington and what doesn't. Daschle says he has serious concerns about the role money continues to play in politics and gave us an example which points to why some kind of campaign finance reform may be needed.
A typical senator has to raise $20,000 every day he or she's in office. And that means, and they don't do that initially, that means the longer they delay having to do that, the more they have to spend time doing it in the last. So it's not unusual for a senator up for re-election to spend 2/3 of his or her time in the last 2 years doing nothing but raising money. They have a fundraising breakfast. They have call time in the morning. They have a fundraising lunch. They have call time in the afternoon. They do a fundraising reception, and then they'll end the day with a fundraising dinner. That's a typical day for a United States senator today. And I'd love the day when they come back to being legislators and less fundraisers.
And it is not just campaign finance that Daschle is worried about. He says he also has concerns about how politicians are using the media to spin a political theory instead of using it to more effectively talk with constituents back home.
There's something about the camera that has caused people to speak more to the camera than to each other, and that's not a good thing. If we're giving speeches to our base exclusively and not really talking about the substance of good public policy, we've lost something there. And I think that's, and then social media with all the tweets and everything else that occurs today, I think has changed the way we talk with each other, and that's also not good.
We also talked with Daschle and Goodwin about the upcoming 2020 political election and the 12 declared Democratic presidential candidates. Daschle, who is a Democrat, says he believes having that many candidates is a good thing and does not muddy the waters, as some political analysts suggest.
I think what we're seeing is an outpouring of engagement that has made our candidates more diverse, has provided more of an opportunity for new ideas and greater dialogue. And so I'm excited. I think there'll probably be more Democratic candidates. There are 18 announced now, and there are 30 names that are floating out there. And so the more the merrier. I like the energy. I like the ideas that some are putting forth. This isn't just a popularity contest. It's really an idea, an opportunity for the debate and the discussion around ideas that I think our country will benefit from.
And Goodwin says having this many candidates in the race this early provides an opportunity to thoroughly vet each of them and challenge them on their positions.
All these people came from somewhere before. They were leaders somewhere before. And we should be looking at what kind of leaders were they in the Congress, in the Senate, in the mayorship, or if we had known that about business before Trump came in, that there's a pattern that's already there of their strengths or their weaknesses. And it gets written about maybe in a long magazine article or a long periodical, but we should be talking about that all the time, how they treated their staff, how they interacted with their constituents, how they were able to bring sides together, how did they grow on the job.
Goodwin also spoke about the last 2.5 years of the Trump administration, saying she hears from those who back the president and those who do not. She says she tells everyone she talks to that the key to the future of this country has always boiled down to how involved voters are willing to be.
If times feel troubled, and they are turbulent right now, that the answer is to get involved in political life. And that's the one hopeful thing I think that we've seen in these last couple of years, that in the midterm elections, more people voting than ever before, standing on long lines. Citizens have control, and they have to control the public sentiment of the country. As Lincoln said, with public sentiment, anything is possible. So if we feel that the country is not moving in a direction that we wish it were, if we feel that the people in Washington aren't working together the way we would hope they would, it's up to us to sort of make that happen.
Coming up next on This Week in Politics.
And everything that we've done can be undone, and bad things can happen.
President Trump holding a roundtable discussion in Minnesota to discuss immigration, the trade war with China, and the upcoming 2020 election. We'll take a look when we come back, right here on KSFY.